So I'm going to be talking about a project that's been running for about the last 3 or 4 years, funded by the Bushfire Natural Hazard CRC, Cooperative Research Centre, which many of the people in this room have been involved with as well. So it came out from trying to figure out these 2 driving principles. So one was disasters are expensive. So this was some work done by Adelaide a couple of years ago, looking at how disasters in Australia are going to increase in dollar value impact until 2050, and this doesn't even include climate change. So this is just looking at urban growth and increases in economic and population elements. And as I say, it's going to get worse. So we have climate change impacting on this. IPCC assessment report 5 says that Australasia is, impacted by wildfires, coastal inundation, things everybody's aware of. The peri-urban fringe is increasing, and our vulnerabilities are changing as well. So we're getting different understanding of risk. People are living in different areas who don't have an understanding of, the landscape, how to manage their property. We also just have less volunteers and changing demographics. But beneath this, prevention is better than cure. So we need to be talking about mitigation instead of just response. And this quote by Howard Clark, I think, sums it up quite well. Is we should build a fence at the top of a cliff instead of parking an ambulance at the bottom. But the challenge that we get around this is, where do we put the fence? How tall is the fence? How long is it? So those questions are really, really challenging if we're going to rely on the fence. The other issue is tomorrow's risk is built today, so it's a function of all the decisions we make today. So if we're talking 10, 20, 30 years out into the future, our land use planning decisions today make an impact. Our building codes, all these decisions we make will change the riskscape into the future, which is terrifying, but also means we have great opportunities to kind of, influence that. And a few people have mentioned already today about proactive risk assessments and things like that, instead of just always reacting to risk. So as I said, this was a 3-4 year project funded by the Bushfire Natural Hazard CRC to develop an interactive modelling tool to try and deal with some of these issues. And it's resulted in a software platform to better improve thinking around risk into the future, better manage and minimise risk, and position organisations, communities, industry sectors to better understand their risk exposure and what they can do about it. We've got software applications for Adelaide, Greater and Peri-urban Melbourne and Tasmania. We're doing Western Australia at the moment as well. And effectively, it's all around building a wind tunnel for policies. So instead of coming up with a policy, instead of coming up with an investment or planning decision and just running with it, we want to be able to stress test it. We want to be able to put it in this wind tunnel to see when it works, where the vulnerabilities are, where the stresses are, and tailor the policy for that. So the decision support system that we came out with is all about long-term dynamics and uncertainties. We model exposure, hazards, and vulnerability separately to bring it all together to look at risk. And it's multi-hazard, so we're looking at coastal inundation, riverine flooding, bushfires, and earthquakes. And as I said, it's a policy wind tunnel, so we've got these risk reduction options in there to see what makes a difference and when, and what the cost-benefit assessment of those are. So looking at land use planning measures, looking at structural mitigation measures, so levees and seawalls and things like that, changes to building codes, prescribed burns, and how does that impact on the risk now, 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future. So everything's spatial, so this is some of the output we get for Greater Adelaide. Do I have a cursor? I'll use a cursor. So this is Greater Adelaide. This is all current. So this is the inundation for a 1 in 200 year event for the Port Adelaide region. Carl yesterday showed this under RCP 8.5 for 2100, which we include as well, which you'll see this gets much bigger. The interesting thing with the modelling we're doing though is we see that. So this is the total buildings in Adelaide. We model this as well, and we see growth, industrial growth into Port Adelaide, which is a stimulated area for growth under our current planning process. So you have rising sea levels, but we're also going to be pumping in millions of dollars worth of investment, which means the risk just goes up and up and up. So we've got climate change that we can't do much about. We have influence over our planning decisions, and we can start having interesting conversations around cost-benefit assessment of, if we want that development, what's the floor level that we should have for that? Should we be building seawalls? Can we afford to build the seawalls? Should we? And these are the types of discussions that we want to be able to get. So we're doing some work with Golla River as well. So this is the Golla River floodplain the photos are from the storm in 2016. So this is the 1 in 200 recurrence interval. And what we do is we run the model in terms of where urbanization is likely to happen. So we look at where growth is going to happen, residential growth, commercial growth, until 2050. And you can see, so the dark red is 75 to 100% likelihood of becoming urban, so changing from a natural area to an urban area. This is Buckland Park, for anyone who knows the floodplain reasonably well. So we can start modelling things like this to go, well, do we increase the dam 10 metres upstream? Do we say people can't live in certain areas? Do we change the building codes to say everyone's floor level should be raised 30 centimetres, 60 centimetres? 30 metres is fine, you'll be safe. Cost-benefit assessment might make it fall over. So now we're looking at how we can use it. So we've been doing a lot of stuff in-house, and we're doing stuff with the Department of Environment and Water now as well. So it can be done for running scenario analysis, so looking at an organization's strengths and weaknesses going into the future in terms of risk. We're also having conversations with asset managers and owners in terms of the TCFD physical risk disclosures that Rosemary from NAB was speaking about this morning, so we can put in assets over the top of this modelling to see what their exposures are and do that proactive risk assessment. And that can also be used for response agencies and environmental agencies and planning agencies. So just to sum up, so I've only got, do I have 6 minutes? Yeah. 1 more minute. So at the moment we have Greater Adelaide. We're looking to expand it a bit for South Australia in the next 6 months. So if there's areas of interest that you would like, those are my contact details, get in touch. The South Australian government contributed to the CRC as a whole, so all South Australian government agencies have a right to use this software. So if you would like to find out a bit more about it, get in touch. We run training courses and these types of things that can help you look at what could be useful for your organisation or any questions you might have. So thanks.